Hey guys, it's so good to be with you here at World Vision Chapel, World Vision Ignite Chapel, week number 6. We are on 2 hands now. How long we're gonna do this? We'll see. It's been another week. It's been an amazing week. This past week, Jill and I, my wife, have been learning how to play some new card games. She's beaten me 2-1. She's won 18 games and I've won 9 games. I don't know how competitive you are, but sometimes it's just for the fun of it. But I'm gonna work better and work harder to become almost as good as her. Listen, a lot has changed in the past few weeks, but one thing has remained the same no matter what. It's that God loves you. And He asks us, and He calls us to love our neighbors as well. That's a beautiful, beautiful reminder. Quick update on our plants. You know our trusty colleague and co-host, Tina, but every week I want to introduce you to a new one. So this week we have Gloria. She's a really fantastic plant. Sometimes we bring our plants to the window to capture some sunshine, and it's really important for plants, but it's important for us too, as humans, to go outside when we can, to run around a little bit, to capture some fresh air, to take in some nature, and that is part of God's beautiful creation. God created the world and everything in it, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. His creation, the people that He created in it, and that we are called to love our neighbors. Why does it matter that we love our neighbors near, that are local, that we can see next door, and our neighbors that are far, that are in other countries that we might not ever meet? And God calls us to love both neighbors. Why? Well, I'm going to tell you. Actually, I'm not going to tell you. My friend Steve Haas is going to be bringing us a message in today's chapel to talk about why we should love our neighbors. Now, this chapel is brought to you by World Vision Ignite. It is a program from World Vision that allows students, that shapes students to become global leaders with a biblical worldview, and you guys can learn more at worldvision.org/ignite. Okay, I hope you guys have a great day. I'm so glad that you're with us. We'll see you here in just a little bit.
Hi, I'm Jan Park. I'm going to read to you from Jesus' Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 5. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. And now, here's our message from Steve Haas.
Hey, I'm at home right now, and you're probably at home as well. And I'm excited to be with you to share a word with you on the topic, why care? You know, it's critically important to consider, but before I get into it, I'm going to do something just a little bit different. A pop quiz. I know. Someone said that this was a faith thing, a chapel kind of deal. So what are you doing? Pop quiz? Before you throw the yellow flag, hold on. It's okay. Just chill. Chill for a second. This quiz is open book. It won't be counted toward your final grade. Maybe it won't be counted toward your final grade. No need for paper and pen. You can answer quietly, or you can share your response with whoever is sitting near you, or you can talk right back to me. Easy peasy. Just 2 questions. Question number 1. Does anyone know where Khulna is? Now, if anyone says Bangladesh, you're going to take me by surprise. If you don't know, that's one of the most populated countries in the world in Southeast Asia. A bit more information. It's where Bristi and Choidy's families live. That should give you some hint. Now I'll just give you a moment to check your answer. Question 2. Does anyone really care? When someone asked Bristi and Choidy what their dreams for the future was 3 years ago, about all they could muster was a blank stare. Future? Yes, they understood the question. It was the answer that seemed impossible. For Bristi, school wasn't an option, as a year before her father abandoned the family and the money just ran out. So at 11 years old, she needed to help provide money for her family. Can you imagine as a child having to help pay the bills for your family? She had 3 older sisters who married as teenagers. One lives in India, and the hard news is that they suspect that she's been trafficked into modern-day slavery. Amina, that's Bristi's mom, said that she was worried that if Bristi married young, she too might be vulnerable to trafficking. So she's really aware of the importance of Bristi remaining in school, as that reduces her chance of getting married as a child. Work for Bristi meant working at a local shrimp processing plant and long hours of back-breaking work peeling shrimp in the dark and the cold. And it also meant that Bristy came home with her fingers scarred with cuts she received from peeling the shrimp. And not far away, in a neighboring community, Choidy, then 13, shared some similarities with Bristy. Her father left too, and this meant that she needed to quit school and find a job to provide for her family. She knew her childhood was over the moment she stepped into a home where she worked mornings as a housemaid. The homeowners were rough with her. If that wasn't enough, in the afternoon, she unfolded cement sacks for another boss who reused the sacks for material to make shopping bags. And with all that work, she earned about US $10 a month. Back then, Choidy cried a lot. She said, if I don't go to school, I can't be anything. I can't get a job. I can't prosper. And at middle school age, when she should have been thinking about school and friends, she was thinking about getting and keeping a job. Bristy and Choidy, why care? They're just two of hundreds of millions of people already neck deep in extreme poverty with a lack of even the most basic resources. Why should we care? Why for them? I guess I could take the better part of the rest of the day debating why people should care, but for whatever reasons you can come up with, all would stand in second place to the primary reason that fragile people should matter to us. As people that follow Jesus, the church, at our core, we're the ones that are to do what Jesus did. We care about what mattered to him, or at least that's why we call ourselves Christians or Christ's ones. It's his idea that we care. We care because he stated, "Follow me." And at the most basic level, it's about as simple as that. Now, I think I know what you might be thinking. Yeah, I'm not totally convinced. I mean, why? Why do we care? I mean, yes, it appears Jesus was concerned about vulnerable people, folks in tough places like Bangladesh. But is there some place in the Bible that directs me on this little question? I mean, why? Why do we care? The instructions from the Bible to care for vulnerable people was actually a rule made by God himself, and he used fairly strong language. In Exodus 22:22, he says, "Do not take advantage of the widow or the fatherless. If you do and they cry out to me, I will certainly hear their cry." Pretty strong stuff. The psalmist certainly figured it out when he wrote in Psalms 146, "The Lord lifts up those who are bowed down. The Lord loves the righteous. The Lord watches over the alien and sustains the fatherless and the widow." So did the prophets. We read later in Isaiah 1:17, when he wasn't happy with the way the rulers in Judah were performing, "Learn to do right. Seek justice. Defend the oppressed. Take up the cause of the fatherless. Plead the case of the widow." We see these verses in the Old Testament, so it wasn't all that surprising that in the New Testament, Jesus simply played follow the leader when he said to care for the least of these. "And I was hungry," he said, "and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in." You see, for God, vulnerable people are top of mind. Means he dwells on them, he thinks about them, and keeps them really, really close to his heart. The question is why? Why does God care? You know, one of the most significant and important verses is found in the book of James in the New Testament. It's the 27th verse in the first chapter. "Religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this, to look after orphans and widows in their distress." Someone once translated this verse as, right religion is taking care of orphans and widows who are in trouble. Pretty simple. Did you catch it? James, the brother of Jesus, in a complete reversal of the world's idea that only the strong survive, that the survival of the fittest shtick, James says something completely different. He roots himself in the biblical worldview. He's saying that your care for people who might be hurting has an impact on you as well. When you attend or care for the needs that you see around you, something happens to you. It's kind of like a rebound. James is saying there's a very real connection between your own daily relationship with Jesus and your care for those in our world who have difficulty caring for themselves. I mean, think about this. This is mind-blowing, life-transforming thought if you put it into practice. Jesus' brother James is just saying, you can't just talk about it. Talk's cheap. There's something that you got to do. Okay, you say to yourself, I get it. Care for the vulnerable people. It impacts my and your life as well, but how do we do that? Well, 3 things, and they all start with the letter C. Don't you love it when it happens like that? To God, care is about providing a covering. In a world that too easily praises the strong and lifts up the winners and routinely overlooks young people, the orphan and the widow need a defender, someone to protect them. I have a good friend, Gary Haugen. He's the founder and leader of the International Justice Mission, or IJM for short. It's a great organization that seeks to do just that. They pursue justice. And often when he speaks, he makes it clear that children can be caught in circumstances where they're taken advantage of. In too many places, kids make easy targets for violence and misuse. And like Choidy, they're like magnets to people whose intentions aren't good. They need a protector. They need a firewall. They need a covering. And since creation, God has placed a premium value on innocence. In his original design, God made it so that men and women would be in right relationship with him. And although much of our world is about corrupting or stomping out innocence, it isn't that way with God. Purity and innocence are forever worthy of protection. And so what do I mean by covering? I mean like an umbrella that keeps the rain off your head, or the roof that keeps your home safe from storms. That orphans and widows need a covering? Well, that's somewhat obvious. But it's more than that. Remember, I said it has a rebound effect. Providing a covering has a way of blessing those who give their time, treasure, and talent on behalf of those who need protection. Providing a covering is not only good for those who need protection, it's essential for those who will provide it as well. Let me illustrate. Much of my global travel over the last several years has been to the Middle East to bring attention to the challenged situation of Syrians who have been displaced from their homes due to the violence of a civil war in their country. Entire communities have had to flee many times to escape being killed with just the clothes that they're wearing. Half of the Syrian refugees that have made this dangerous journey from their country, well, they're kids, millions of kids, just like you. Young people who loved their lives, their schools, their friends, and their activities until it became just too dangerous to live where they live. So they had to leave. The most distressing thing to hear in their stories recounting various things that they've witnessed and experienced, it's shocking, it's heartbreaking. And if I were to mention what I've been told to share some of the stories I've heard, well, you just might have nightmares like I sometimes have. In the small tent that they now live in, I often ask myself, who will this child be when they grow up? We know that they're going to believe in something or someone. Everyone does. But who will that be? Who will be their friend? Or worse, who will be their enemy? Who are they going to follow when they grow up? You know, I remember asking that same question to some students at a major university in California, and a guy in the front row said out loud, "Whoever feeds them!" You know, they get smart students at Stanford University. He was exactly right. And he could just as easily have said, "Whoever covers them!" Providing for the vulnerable ones, the orphan and the widow, is to replace a stone that's become loose in our own fence. To stand with the vulnerable is to invest in a more stable future for them, a future that they can depend on. And stability for them means, well, stability for us as well. We want to be the first to respond with God's love. We engage because that's what Jesus did and would have us do. The first C is covering. The second C is providing a community. And here too, the move to create community has a rebound quality. We find community too when we do this for others. In our work to provide for the vulnerable people, we become community creators. Well, what do I mean by this? Let me explain. Henry Nouwen was a well-known university professor and writer who lived in a community called L'Arche when he got older. Many kinds of people live there. With a number of other residents, Henry was asked to assist a young man who had no control of his arms or legs. He couldn't talk, he was deaf, and he was also blind. Our world has come up with a horrible and very crude expression to define someone in this condition. It's the word vegetable. You know, at World Vision, like L'Arche, we celebrate that people are made in God's image. They have worth and dignity, and they also have a name. And this young man was named Adam. It was in daily attending to Adam that Henry noticed something profound. Adam was a community creator. Adam was the reason that 8 others joined together in relationship and experienced true sacrificial community. Adam wasn't someone that you attended when you had more time or more money or some level of influence. No, Adam was the reason they existed, the very reason they were there. The people that are most vulnerable, instead of being seen as distractions, help focus our community on those things that we're to be about. This is the kind of community that Jesus created. A community everyone wants to join. It's been Christian success in creating this kind of community that cared not just for its own, but for outsiders as well. That's been the strongest single cause of the spread of our faith. When we reach out to care for strangers, we're showing them who Jesus is through our actions. And don't be surprised if we see his presence in our community when we engage. I saw this really well at a Christian college meeting I attended at Seattle Pacific University a few years back. The meeting was hosted by a student group that, along with attending classes, had also formed a club to serve persons in their community that were infected with HIV. That's the virus that causes AIDS. Mike was a man whose body had been significantly destroyed by the virus, and he was now battling AIDS, and he was asked to come down front and stand on the stage. And there he was, incredibly wobbly, balancing himself on 2 canes as the disease had impacted his muscles and it had made him incredibly weak. He was joined by some of the students that were pledged to serve him. One student said that he did Mike's grocery shopping. One said they loved reading to him. Mike nodded. He liked that. One said she rubbed his feet and scalp, and Mike smiled, let everyone know he really loved that. And then he later related that when you have this virus, no one wants to touch you. One student said he just comes over to hang out and study. I thought that guy was a bit of a slacker. And as if Mike was reading my mind, he said, before these students came over, I didn't have a visitor for years. You know, interesting, we're all getting used to physical distancing for a month, maybe 2. What if that was your experience for several years? What would that do to you? It was at that time that Mike began to lose his balance and his arms began to shake violently. And one of the students to his right whispered, "You don't need to be so tough. I got you. Let me have your arm." And then the other guy to his left said the same. And as Mike began to slump, I saw a picture that Mike's body made that I didn't expect. The body of Christ surrounded by broken bodies. And in doing so, surrounding Jesus, a broken body. In Matthew 25, Jesus said that when we meet the needs of others, we're really doing it to him. Daily, the vulnerable ones create opportunity for us to rally together and understand the deeper truths of God. The spread of God's kingdom is about a community of oneness, spending time and serving others out of gratitude for the one who gave himself up for us, died for our sin when we were helpless to do anything about it. When we step up in this way, Jesus sees it as doing something for him. What was that verse in Matthew 25? When you do this to the least of these brothers of mine, you did it to me. Care is about covering or protection. Care is about community. To God, care is about obedience to a commandment, the greatest commandment, to love. In John's Gospel, John 15:12, it says, "My commandment is this, love each other as I have loved you." You know, this verse has always kind of stumped me. I seem to share this with wordsmiths, accountants, people who like statistics, folks who enjoy dissecting meanings and things. So how do we love as Jesus loved? I mean, he loved us first. He wants us to imitate him. How can we love him back first? Wouldn't that mean that we love him second? I mean, how does this work? You want to love like Jesus loves? Oh, Find others who have nothing to give to you in return, those who have not loved you first or cannot return anything to you. Jesus said, if you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Aren't even the tax collectors doing that? You see, God knows you can't expect anything in return from orphans and widows. Vulnerable or fragile people often have nothing to offer back to you other than, well, maybe their thanks, a covering, a community, and a commandment, our 3 C's. Right now, you and I are in the middle of a significant worldwide crisis. And although most of us haven't had to deal with the impact of COVID-19 through the loss of a loved one or a loss of a job, the ripple effects of this virus will be with us for a long time. Already the virus has begun to shred the fragile covering of the world's most vulnerable, and it's going to continue to do this, especially in very crowded places where physical distancing is impossible to do. It destroys the tender fibers of community as it passes from one person to another, usually unaware. COVID-19 turns a pandemic into a very isolating affair without our love, without our caring. Everyone's foundation shakes as a result. And I just find it encouraging that in other areas in which the world has been threatened by destructive diseases, the role of God's people has been to line up in historic formation in obedience to Jesus. Their call was to cover and protect the fragile. Their community was energized by a unified motivation to obey the greatest commandment to love. And although much of the media portrays Jesus' followers for their judgmentalism and non-action, the strong reality today and down through history has been that God's people have been faithful to caring even to the point of death. We're on a mission to care about those who everyone else has ignored and forgotten, because God hasn't forgotten them. And as for Bristy and Choidy, World Vision set up a child-friendly learning and recreational center to help both girls prepare for their future. In some cases, like Bristy, this has meant getting tutoring support so that she'd be able to rejoin her classmates again. You know, she passed 6th grade. She ranked 6th in her class after all her final exams. She wants to become a teacher, working with children who, like her, found it difficult to attend school. And she's part of her school's volleyball team. And last year, wouldn't you know it, they won the inter-school volleyball championship. Choidy, she wanted to rejoin school, but her age made it impossible. So through skill training at the World Vision Center, she discovered that she could work from home in a much safer environment and that she could do tailoring. And like Bristy, Choidy learned critical life skills like negotiation, bartering, decision-making, stress management, and a host of other important things. And it wasn't just Choidy, but her family also learned to dream again, creating goals and an action plan to achieve them. And to make up for the lost income from her child labor, World Vision provided a monthly grant that lasted a year, and Choidy got a new sewing machine for being part of the program. And she's now hard at work. She's her own boss. She started her business 2 years ago and started earning a small income. She says her sewing skills are really improving and that steadily she's getting more orders and increasing her earnings. Because people follow Jesus in practical ways in caring for both Bristy and Choidy, both girls now have hope. That's real. It's transformational. It's changing the world for lives a world away, but also right here at home. You know, this chapel is brought to you by World Vision Ignite, a program designed for young people like you. With Ignite, young people are shaped into global leaders with a biblical worldview. People like Haley Lilla. Watch this.
Previously, I had looked up Generation Z traits and characteristics, and just as I had figured, all definitions of my generation somehow revolved around technology. And they are right. My generation has never known life without access to the internet. We can be criticized for our dependence on our phone, our obsession with how we present ourselves online, and our addiction through connecting through social media rather than in person. Some say that life is easier for us because, if you think about it, we can find virtually anything in a matter of seconds. On the one hand, social media can be a positive space for uplifting, funny, and inspiring stories and ideas. But on the other hand, it can be constantly focused on the negative in the world. But what we don't address is how that exposure affects us. For a generation handed an infinite amount of knowledge, it can be very confusing. climate change, an increasingly polarized United States, videos and pictures that go viral of different forms of social injustice. I can log onto my phone right now and find videos of the Rwandan genocide, children dying from lack of access to clean water, refugees displaced from their homes, aftermaths of natural disasters, and the list goes on and on. If you're like me, the exposure to every tragedy, scandal, and injustice at a young age starts to take a toll as you grow up. It makes you question, why them and not you? It leaves you confused without a clear call to action, and it makes you feel guilty that you're just watching and continuing on with your day without doing anything. But the thing about my generation is that we are confident that we are the ones to fix it all. We are the dreamers, but we are also the doers. We are the ones with such passion and knowledge built up inside, but we often have a difficult time trying to find a place to act upon our feelings. When a young person is given an outlet, the possibilities are endless. World Vision's Ignite partnership was an outlet for me. When my principal introduced me to World Vision, I had no idea that this would be the start of me changing into a completely different individual. I was given an opportunity to live out my faith through action, so I ran with it. The partnership began my senior year of high school, and it was more than just impactful for my school. It was transformative. The Ignite partnership brought together every club, every team, and every family for one common good. No matter if you were singing songs in Swahili in choir class, or you were the soccer team fundraising for soccer balls for our kids in Kenya, you were using your individual talents for our community. It opened up doors for law and justice students, giving them an avenue to see what the justice system looks like in Kenya. It inspired STEM students, provided multiple service opportunities, and gave students the ability to do work that they found purpose and meaning in. Ignite brought students from all different interests under a shared eagerness to tackle the issues they're exposed to by the media every day. Last year, I watched students and families from all walks of life unite together as a community to walk 6 kilometers for clean water. This partnership not only dug up that passion that we all have, but it made the ability to promote positive change accessible to anyone. The name Ignite is so fitting because World Vision's partnership sparked this flame of servitude for God, and it spread like wildfire through myself, my friends, my family, and now the community. Proverbs 22:6 says, "Start children off on the way they should go, and even when they are old, they will not turn from it." The Ignite partnership truly changed my life. It flipped my perspective of the world. It forced me to reevaluate myself. It strengthened my faith in God, and it gave me a bigger purpose. I know that my responsibility is to spread the light of Jesus while loving all of my neighbors, whether they're right next to me or thousands of miles away. This partnership proves to students like myself that you don't have to wait for your turn to change the world. Rather, you can start making a tangible impact today.
You're the next generation, the generation of promise. You can indeed do great things for the sake of others and because of Christ. Well, you want to retake a pop quiz? Sure you do. We all do. Okay, let's see how you do. Question 1. Do you know where Kolna is? It's home for 2 girls named Bristy and Choity. But you knew that. Question 2. Do you care? Yes. Knowing what you do now and putting it into practice makes all the difference.
Steve, thank you so much. Guys, I told you Steve had a great message for us. That Jesus showed us how to love, and then he taught us to love God and love all of our neighbors. All of our neighbors. Okay, don't go anywhere, because at the very end of today's chapel, I have a very special invitation for you. I want to make sure that you are part of this. You're not going to want to miss it. It's something really exciting, something that is one of my favorite things to do every single year, and I want you to be part of it, okay? But before that, we're going to step into a time of worship, and Emma, a student advocate from World Vision Ignite, is going to be leading us. So Emma, take it away.
sin runs deep. Your grace is more. Your grace is found, is where you are. And where you are, Lord, I am free. Holiness is Christ in me. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. So teach my song to rise to you. When temptation comes my way, when I cannot stand, I'll fall on you. Jesus, you're my hope and stay. And when I cannot stand, I'll fall on you. Jesus, you're my hope and stay. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. You're my one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. Thanks for singing with me today. I hope you have a blessed rest of your day.
Thank you, Emma, for leading us. Y'all, remember Steve's talk, and let's put it into action, that Jesus calls us to love our neighbors both near and far, and you guys can do it in a very practical way. Here's the thing that I was telling you about. Here's the exciting invitation. I'm inviting you to sign up for the Global 6K for Water. I'm doing it, and you should do it with me. What is it? It's a 6-kilometer walk or run from wherever you are, and every time someone signs up, a new person gets clean water and access to hand washing. We know how important it is right now to wash our hands, and World Vision's water work allows people to have water, clean, fresh water that they can drink, and safe water for sanitation hygiene like hand washing. 6 kilometers is the average distance that people in the developing world have to walk for water. So every time we get to sign up and walk or run 6K, we take 6K away from someone else and that dangerous walk for water. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So I'm ready. I'm so ready. I have my World Vision Global 6K t-shirt. It just came in the mail. You'll get one of these too. Also, you'll get a beautiful little medal when you finish the race. How cool is that? But the most important thing is that every single one of us will have a unique child to walk or run for. I have Marie from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, you can do this wherever you are, like I said, in your neighborhood. You can just do it in your house. You can run laps in your backyard, whatever it takes. Ask your friends, sign up. It is on May 16th, very, very soon. Just go to worldvision.org/6K, worldvision.org/6 and then letter K, and you can get started right now to sign up and help change some lives and put our love into action. Well, that's all the time that we have today. Thank you so much for being here again with us. May the Lord bless you, may He keep you, may He cause His face to shine upon you, and may you have a great week and go in